Hey everyone, and welcome to my first monthly wrap-up. This is going to be a series I'm going to do at the end of every month. My goal is to make a video that kind of wraps up what I had in mind that month, and then how things went. This is the first one, so I'm going to actually talk a little bit about the whole first half of the year. And from now on, after this point, it'll be more just month to month. As you know, this is the first year that I've kind of started the year with a studio ready to go, hit the ground running. Huge, well, I would say very, very steep learning curve. The main thing that I'm concentrating on right now is a spaceship interior for the game. You may remember there was a rocket interior that looks something like this. This is some of the early stuff that I did, and in retrospect, I'm just like, I don't understand how this went by so fast. I think I actually produced most of what you're seeing here in just a few days, a couple of days, and a lot of it in just a few hours. It's very, very simple. You're looking at foam core, you know, and then like hot glue. I mean, that's not even really modeling techniques. Like there's hardly any like styrene or anything. It was exactly what I needed for the rocket, and it just gave me the perfect amount of detail. And I really think I lucked out because I just kind of found a design that worked really well for what I wanted to do. It kind of, you know, gave me the steel and the wood, and I really lucked out that the foam core didn't just shrivel up under all that paint. When I needed to set out to make a different ship interior, I knew had to be a lot more complicated. I got a set of photos from my friend and early bird backer Adoya of alien Nostromo scratch model. It seems to be just kind of a hobby thing. I mean, it looks like something that could easily be expanded out into some sort of giant playset or something. It's really amazing looking. It gave me a lot of ideas about how to get into, you just start thinking about creating modular hallways, and hallways that kind of look like something out of Alien. But it wasn't exactly what I was looking for, because I wanted to have a very realistic look, more realistic than Alien, which is saying a lot. Alien is very realistic, but at the end of the day, Alien still is a movie set of what a spaceship might be. It's impressionistic, and that's what that movie set was, and it was what it was supposed to be. Of course, you're going to stare at a video game screen for many more hours working out puzzles and things. This isn't a movie where a shot goes by like that. I really wanted to put some thought into making the environment more realistic. Then, you know, the next question is, realistic to what exactly? We have an idea of what technology was like, where technology was at in the world that Jack Houston is born out of, the 1940s hard-boiled science fiction. So I started visiting 1940s era battleship, and I visited a submarine and got a whole bunch of photos, and I started kind of integrating that in. Now, before I did that, I kind of started just kind of going off of my ideas from looking at those models. I'm going to show you my first kind of prototype hallway that was so terrible that it's embarrassing, but this is it. So this was the first prototype hallway for the game, and in fact, I don't think I ever really settled on whether it should go this way or this way, but it doesn't really matter. Obviously, this is not going to be used in the game. I was making it out of this very, very flimsy, very thin, you know, styrene. It had no body to it at all. You have like this kind of overhangs, and nothing looked right about this. It was just a disaster, basically. I kind of finished this up and felt like, okay, all I'm figuring out is that I don't even know yet how much I don't know when it comes to modeling this stuff. My next step was to, I've got to get thicker styrene. So that styrene is definitely too flimsy. I ordered so much thicker 080. Actually, if you know styrene, it's what I'm working with now is 080 styrene, and this represents kind of the wall, or the modular wall piece that I ended up with, kind of based on that idea of the other wall piece. The wall itself is modular in that it's a big modular piece that can be kind of put in with, you know, photographs side by side with itself, and, you know, various layers. But it also has a lot of other modular things going on, like This stuff right here is kind of attached with magnets, so you know I can kind of take stuff off, put it on. I have a huge set of pieces like this that can all be kind of, you know, taken off and put on. This is also modular. A whole bunch of little pieces that can be kind of added and subtracted to make for a complete swap out of all these little details, so that I can just kind of use the wall over and over and over and make it look different every time. Much happier with this, and all the modeling kind of moving forward followed that sort of design, that pattern, and it kind of set the standard for what the, you know, detail level had to look like. This is you know, this is another little modeling piece, sort of a rust, you know, layer. It had to kind of look like some of the rust had peeled off, and you've got, you know, metal showing through it. It had to kind of look like, you know, thin sheet metal with the kind of thick metal pieces. And then there's these boxes, crates, which, and I created like one, and then this is just a shell casting of it. So I created, you know, one of these in styrene, and then molded it and created tons and tons of them, just stacks of this, a pile of them basically. Painted all of them differently. Did the same thing with these barrels, and you can kind of get a look at what looks like modeled in detail, but of course that's actually cast modeled detail. That detail was not really. It's all just part of the shell casting. Can't really see inside there too well because this is white, but basically it's the inside is just, so you just pour a little bit of plastic in, kind of rotate it. It's sort of called roto casting, although I had to do it by hand, and then, you know, coat it, and then it just, you don't use too much plastic, but you can end up with this nice, you know, usable piece. And I was able to make tons of this stuff with, like, you know, one small 2-part set of plastic. Super close-up look at some of the rusting details. And this is a barrel that's kind of starting to rust and come apart. The ship is like full of little doodads like this that I had to model and create, and then cast a whole bunch of, and then paint all of this detail into each one. And I'm using the walls to create hallways, and then I've got catwalk. You know, I had to create railing for that and all this stuff, and I had to have grating that light comes through the bottom. I've created like a big deep freeze unit. I've got a little narrow little kitchen area that's now kind of a storage space. There's a latrine that I'm working on now. There's all these little rooms that have to be created one by one. It's going faster and faster now because I'm reusing a lot of the same parts and just making custom pieces for those particular rooms. And I'm kind of developing a pretty fast way of being able to get a whole bunch of different pipes in, and, you know, get the walls set up. I've got several different kinds of walls, flat walls, I-beams, the modular like hallway wall, and I'm gonna be finished with the upstairs area at some point, and then I have to do kind of a little bit different style in the downstairs area because it's a double-decker ship. Thinking ahead to what that style is going to be when I go downstairs. But I have a lot of details to do in the next couple of rooms because I'm almost finished with the rooms that have, you know, fairly standard detail. Then I have like 2 rooms, well, one in particular that has much more intricate detail. And a lot of these little things are going to be very gameplay specific. I'm not exactly even sure what all of it is, but I saw it in the submarine and I thought, you know, if I just pulled something out of my imagination, it wouldn't have been that interesting. So it's really cool sometimes to just take the real thing, go into some environment like that, build something that's real. Somebody created it, and it's not created by a designer. This is like me going through a submarine, seeing a lot of technology I don't fully understand. I don't know exactly how it all works, but everything in there was designed by some engineer, and it was designed for function, to be functional, and it works. And so when I come at everything from that direction, I end up with a ship that I look around at this ship and I don't actually know what all these little things do and how it all works. but it doesn't feel to me like the Hollywood spaceship set, where you just kind of have pipes and things glued to the wall, or weird textures glued to the wall, or somebody takes a computer motherboard, drills it into the wall and spray paints it white. And that's kind of what you end up with in a lot of sci-fi movie sets that, again, looks pretty cool when it goes by on screen, but when you sit and scrutinize it's not made for that. It's really fun to see it actually come together and get photographed and go into Photoshop and have all the layers with the different lighting, harsh lighting and backlighting and glow and fill lighting. So that's kind of what I'm in the middle of right now. And honestly, it's been so daunting that I'll be kind of hip deep in it. I'll create something like that first wall that just didn't work at all. Or I'll just be painting barrels for so long I can't even, all I can see are barrels. Close my eyes and it's barrels. And I kind of switch over and switch gears and do something else, working on this alien structure that looks completely bizarre in this form, but photographed in the right light and then put together properly, it's going to be a really big, nasty, weird chamber that will be even bigger than the Well of Souls from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and definitely sort of somewhat inspired by that, and of course, everything Geiger ever did. So that's another piece that I took some time out to build and paint and everything at some point, and photograph. And I've got all of it photographed. It's like the background of the scene is done. There's actually another big foreground model that has to be done. I've started on that. I've got the foam pieces ready. I just need to do some carving. And then on and off, I've been sculpting some creatures, going back and forth, and then returning and coming back. The interior of the ship is now moving much faster than it was before, so that's good. And a lot of kind of getting things molded, and then casting a lot of things, and a lot of painting, and then a lot of photography of specific rooms, and then actually a lot of Photoshop editing has gone into the spaceship already as well. So it's all kind of happening at once. The last month was specifically kind of about rounding up all of these things that I've created, getting things finalized, and the paint jobs done, starting to photograph the new rooms that have more of these little detail pieces. At some point, it's like you just have to stop creating details, or you'll just create details forever. Finished and photographed rooms are starting to really add up at this point, crossing things off the list, and that's great. So that's kind of specifically what August was all about. It was about putting my foot down on finishing a lot of this model work, and I think that I kind of found ways to speed things up and feel like I'm thinking a little less and doing a little more when I sit down to create these models. It's less about what would be the coolest thing to do, and then I just start working, and then that kind of goes on for a long time. And now it's more about what could I do right now? What could I do today? What if I just grab this and do that, and then grab this, and then glue this on real quick. It doesn't have to stick for long. I just need the photograph. It's okay if I end up wasting a brush or two because I'm moving so fast. So it's about kind of finding a new pace. Now that I'm transitioning from all of this detail modeling to actually photography again, actually doing the photography, it's been really rewarding because a lot of work has gone into making all these little model bits and details, and now it's really cool to be able to see that stuff finally in front of the camera and kind of see how it's working out. And in some cases, I'm going, the detail I'm putting in this is not necessarily coming through. Not all of the detail. And once you really start photographing the stuff, you realize what you can get away with. You realize what you really need and what you don't need. There are some corners I can cut. I can paint in a different way, maybe not quite so meticulously. Duplicate things, a little more sloppily because I'm not going to be able to tell the difference. It's been really interesting kind of watching things go from one to the other. And the results are frankly just so much better than the stuff that I was getting even photographing the early rocket stuff. I think the rocket stuff works fine for what it is, but that's a different kind of ship. It's from a different era. Things are just different with that part of the game. This part of the game needs to be more realistic. The ship needs to be more functional, because there's a lot more that you have to do. You spend more time in this area of the game. There are more puzzles. It's a pretty important set piece. It's probably the most important of all the different set pieces of the game. So taking a lot of time. And I'm also finding that, it turns out, of course, building little realistic, shelves or 50-gallon drums and things like that takes so much more time than cutting rock or spreading around foliage. It's just mind-boggling. So now that is kind of, I feel like I'm in a faster gear, working less to achieve a lot more inside this ship. It feels like every time I sit down to work on it, I'm either photographing it that day, or I'm almost ready to photograph it, and maybe the next session I'm photographing it. So going into August, I guess my goal is to continue to punch through the ship interior. I'm looking at trying to get the upper deck completely finished this month. There's another room. I have to do an engine room that's going to be very intricate, and I'd like to be working on the engine room before the end of the month. And then once the engine room is done, I'll be able to do the lower deck. I haven't done the exterior of the ship yet, so one of the things I need to do is actually, I've decided to, I've gone round and round and round. This is one of the other things I've done lately is design and redesign the ship. For a while I was actually sitting down early in the morning and just spending a couple hours every morning sketching out new ideas and trying to figure out what the ship's hull could be. At one point it was going to be completely cut out of foam and use it as a buck for vacuum forming. And that was kind of my plan, was to make sort of a vacuum formed with a completely original hull design. The more thought I gave it, the more I decided I really wanted to do a kit bash starting with an existing airplane. So I took designs of a real airplane and redesigned it on paper in a way that I could easily, start with that model kit. But I want to start with a bigger model kit than anything I have. So I have these model kits at a smaller scale. I want to get a larger scale version of it. At some point soon, I'll go ahead and order that. So I won't be completely done with the interior of the ship until I do a couple of exterior shots that are kind of a part of exploring the ship. And that'll sort of wrap up the freighter build. I'll be able to kind of finish up the swamp at that point because I need it for that. And that will roll me into just finishing up a couple of things for the swamp, because I do have some new ideas. I've kind of redesigned how the swamp scenes fit together. So this is another thing that I've been doing is I'll just take all of the scenes from the game and I'll take them and put them on a table and kind of think about how things are laid out. And the initial layout of the swamp I've kind of rethought, and I'm kind of decided on a slightly new flow for that area. And for that I'm going to actually need some new plates, which is no problem because there's actually this really great lake nearby, and I can get some beautiful shots and give me just the last couple of pieces that I need for the swamp. So other than that, the swamp's already together. It's already done. And at that point, I will be done with all of that, and I'll be able to move on to the cave. Huge, extensive cave build. I'm excited about that because doing caves moves very quickly. You just get in there and you carve foam. It's as simple as that. You can kind of add interesting details around and have a lot of fun with it. Kind of take pieces and reshape it and create different rooms. So I'm really excited about doing that. I'm excited about getting all the spaceship stuff off of the stage and building the cave. So it's kind of like what I'm looking forward to next. I can't wait to get to the cave. I have to say that when I look at what I have now and I think about what I had in mind in the beginning, I don't think I saw it ever looking quite like that. I don't think I realized how much detail I would be able to put into this. I guess I'm just kind of grateful that I'm now in a place that I can kind of keep the project going. It's not at the pace I would like. I'm not doing it full time, but I am working on it. And I realize that there are a lot of people that designed the project, or they set up their their project in such a way that they needed certain things, like maybe a big group of people. You know, they needed 10, 15, 20 people. This project was one that does not need a huge team of people. The fact that I'm not able to do it full time is not by any means a deal breaker. If this game, for instance, had cell animation, that I certainly can't do. If I was trying to make this with a game engine that I don't have the ability to, to actually be the programmer on, this project could have been set up in such a way that I would fail if I went super over schedule. And I guess I'm just really grateful that I have the opportunity to continue to work on it until it's finished, because that's what I set out to do. So thank you for everyone who has gotten involved and has helped the project reach this point. And thank you for your patience in allowing it to come to fruition, and reach the potential that I think I saw, and I think all of you saw. And I will be back at the beginning of next month to wrap up how this month went. So thank you all, and I will see you very soon.